Well, in the words of that great movie, the sequel, let's do it again. The General Assembly is headed into special session this Monday. During this time period, they're going to determine what type of budget will we have, what will be funded, what is the compromise, and what does this mean for the people of the Commonwealth of Virginia. It's Stay the Water. I'm your host, Dr. Eric LaVille, and you're joining us for this special 2024 special session review, looking back, looking forward, with none other than a historic Speaker of the House, Don Scott. We'll be right back in just a moment. Welcome back. It's Stay the Water. I'm your host, Dr. Eric LaVille. Once again, I want to thank you for joining us, as you always do, on this beautiful Sunday here, not just in Hampton Roads, but across the world, from all our listeners that support us as we broadcast from the campus of the Norfolk State University, home of the Spartan Nation, from none other than WNSB Hot 91, the soul of VA. Well, not only is this a very special session series that we're doing here for the General Assembly, but it's also a special day. We want to say Happy Mother's Day to all the mothers that are listening here. Listen, mothers are to be appreciated not just on Mother's Day, but all throughout the year. But today is your day. So take your flowers. You deserve it for all that you've done to sacrifice, to raise your family, to be a mother also to those that don't have mothers. We want to wish a wonderful, wonderful Mother's Day. We love you all. Happy Mother's Day to my wife, also my mother, her mother as well, my mother-in-law, and to all of my sisters, aunts, and relatives as well. Well, listen, for those of you that have been joining us throughout the year, you know that we do a General Assembly review. And on this show, we bring movers, shakers, and policymakers to you to discuss issues important to the community. Well, you know, we've had legislators on the show, everyone from our alums that are serving the legislature, from Delegate Cliff Hayes to Senator Lamont Bagby, to our Hampton Roads delegation, Senator Aaron Rouse, to Delegate Darius Clark, Bonita Anthony, and the list goes on and on. They've talked about the great things that they've done in the community, great things that they've done for the Commonwealth. Well, General Assembly is over, but there's a special session that starts tomorrow. In this, the General Assembly and the Governor's Office will come to an agreement to find out what will happen with our budget, what's going to be funded, what's going to be compromised, and what does this mean for the people of the Commonwealth. Well, listen, today I have with me someone that I admire tremendously, someone that's a friend to this institution, Norfolk State University, and someone who is leading the General Assembly and the Commonwealth to greater heights than it's ever seen before. None other than historic Speaker of the House, the Honorable Delegate Don Scott. Don, thank you so much for joining us here on State of the Water.
Thank you for having me. And again, I'd like to wish all my mother personally and my wife Happy Mother's Day, and all of the women in my life who fuss at me like they're my mothers, Happy Mother's Day as well. And I want to thank all of the mothers out there today, and all of those women who have taken people under their wing and shepherded them and loved them and nurtured them. So happy Mother's Day to everybody.
Absolutely, absolutely. Our mothers deserve it. They are the backbone of our community. Well, Delegate Scott, again, it's an honor to have you here on the show. You know, everyone that I've spoken with, everyone that's come on to the show, I asked them, I said, you know, how does it feel to be in this last General Assembly, this historic General Assembly, where we've had, you know, the first African-American woman to serve as the chairwoman of the Senate Finance, powerful Senate Finance Committee. We've had many historic chairs of different committees, but none other that's more historic than your election as the Speaker of the House. Listen, tell us, how does it feel?
Well, I feel grateful. I am very thankful. I understand on the shoulders from whom I stand on. I know that there are giants who came before me who never got this opportunity, so I don't take it for granted. It's important to be the first black speaker, and it's also important to be excellent. So I don't want to lose sight of the fact that I have a requirement and an assignment to be excellent in this role, so that I can continue to build upon the historic nature of those folks who came before me, so that others can come behind me and have an opportunity to serve as Speaker too. And so no one, hopefully by the end of this session or the end of next session, people will forget all about that I'm black, and they'll only remember that he was one of, if not the best Speaker that we've ever had. I've always been amazed when I've been in this role where people on both sides of the aisle will come up to me and say, Don, you are doing an amazing job. You are doing a great job. And I kind of smile to myself like, what the heck were you expecting? You know what I mean? Y'all better raise y'all's expectations up because I didn't come in here to play. And so I think, one of the things is we have to continue to set the standard and set the bar high. And that's what I've tried to do.
Well, listen, you not only set the standard, you are exceeding the standard as well. But it's interesting you say that, because that point that you made when they say, Don, you're doing a great job. And, in our eyes, and, we come from a similar background, excellence in our community, in our home, there was no other expectation. Saying you're gonna no excuses. You're gonna get it. Make sure you do it well, no matter what. Speaker Scott, you were here for commencement, and you were our commencement speaker just last week. And let me tell you, the words that you spoke to our students, the graduates, and just everyone, it resonated so much. But not only that, but you encouraged our students to say that, it's not about where you come from, and it's not about where you are now, but it's about where you're going to go. You said that your best has not been told yet. Tell us a little bit about your story and getting to the point where you're at now.
Well, I think, I feel sometimes I joke around with certain people, every superhero has an origin story. And I always say you have to be the superhero in your own life. And that's what I wanted to tell the students, like, you are enough. You are sufficient. And I wanted them to understand that there are people all over the world that try to emulate the way they walk, the way they talk, the way they carry themselves, their hair, their style, their savoir-faire. And so we have to walk into these spaces like we belong. And so my story is not a traditional story. I was raised by a single mom, 6 kids, went to high school, graduated, went to Texas A&M University, the largest school in Texas. Probably about 500 black kids when I was there. It's probably 40,000 students total.
Wow.
Probably not a whole lot has changed there. They still are having issues attracting and keeping black talent at Texas A&M. It's a very conservative school. I graduated. I went to the Navy. I was a naval officer, surface warfare officer, served my country with honor. Got out, went to LSU Law School. And in my 3rd year of law school, I made a decision that I regret to this day, but God is in control. I got caught up in a drug conspiracy, crack cocaine conspiracy, and couldn't believe it. I went to go pick up some money, and I knew what it was. I never denied that. And the folks let me go, and then they came back and arrested me. Literally, I was arrested in the law library studying for my finals. In my last semester of law school, was fighting my case, studying, passed my finals, graduated, fighting my case. I ended up pleading no contest, thinking that I might get a slap on the wrist. I'd never been in trouble, and I ended up getting a 10-year sentence. And like I said, thankfully my mother was in the courtroom with me that day, and that's what I like folks to know. And I tell these kids, like, all your friends are going to be gone. When those tough times get tough, the people that's going to be there is your mama.
That's right.
So my mother was in the courtroom, and I heard her yelp when the man said 10 years because she couldn't believe it. But we put our faith in God. I had these praying black women. I remember it well because the judge let me leave. And I had a woman that worked with my mom. Her name was B. Simon. And Miss Simon, poured that oil. You know how so she ain't rubbed no oil on my head. She poured oil on my head. She said, you're going to be protected. Amen. I don't know what's going to happen, but you're going to be okay.
Amen.
On the other side. And I believed it. And so I went in. I did about 7 years and 8 months on a 10-year sentence. Got out, worked hard. I went to work for a workforce development company. I stayed there for about 12, 13, 14 years, from 02 to about 13 years. I took the bar, the Virginia bar, in 2014, which is 20 years after finishing law school. Hadn't looked at law or anything. I started studying Memorial Day weekend in 2014. I had a barbering course. I ordered it and studied on the plane because I was traveling a lot for work. Studied, took the bar in July. God willing, I passed the bar the first time. And I tell these kids it was about discipline, not smarts. I think most of education is about discipline. Most of the answers, you've been in school, most of the answers are already in the book.
That's right.
You just got to remember the answers. And so, and I think that takes discipline and routine and some rigidness to be focused, to tell the answers. You know, I always tell my daughter, she's 15, I say, you just got to tell it back. Teacher told you the answers, then she give you a test and say, tell it back. So that's basically what school is, and that's how I look at the bar. Passed it, had to go before the Character and Fitness Committee to get my license because I had that felony. Went before them, took my whole family and people I had to work with, and they go through everything in your life, your credit report, your credit score, your financial report, your bank statements and everything, and then they made a recommendation that I be licensed. Then I had to go to the Board of Bar Examiners after that, and then they made a recommendation that I be licensed. I'll never forget, it's a lady here in Norfolk. Her name is Adita Poston. She works at Vandiver the Black. She led the way as a member of the Board of Bar Examiners. I remember Brian K. Jackson, who was also on the board. They made the motion in the second to give me my license, which everybody said it wouldn't happen the first time, and it did. I got licensed, and then I started practicing. And then in about 2018, I got some high-profile. I'd been doing cases. Then I got a couple of high-profile cases. Some folks thought I might run against them. And so they leaked a story that, hey, this guy's got in trouble before. And so the pilot called me and said, hey, is this true? We heard this, and I knew it leaked it. Some people that thought I was going to run against them because I had some name, recognition in the community. People were telling me to run, think about running, and I really wasn't thinking about it at the time. But then when they outed me, I said, well, hell, I'm free now. I might as well run. They put my story on the front page of the paper on the Sunday after Thanksgiving. And so after that was in November 2018.
Wow.
So when 2019 came around, Delegate Matthew James resigned to go work for Governor Northam. He called me and told me he was resigning and said, hey, if you run, I'm going to endorse you. And so I said, okay. And I threw my name in the hat, went in a caucus, had a caucus race against an opponent. He ended up dropping out the night before the caucus. And then I had to run in the general, and I won. And so I focused on the same things that I'm focused on now, making sure that we have an equitable economy that works for everybody, working on criminal justice reform. I think every child deserves a first-class public school education. That's what I had.
Absolutely.
And so I want everybody to have that, know those things, protecting women's reproductive health care, and making sure our kids understand the importance of voting. Our people have come too far. We've lost too much to turn back on our responsibility to be engaged in this democracy. I will say this. This is one of the things that I need people to understand this. We shouldn't take a back seat of anybody on claiming America. This is our land. And, we built this country. We built the Industrial Revolution. With our forebears, their labor helped make America great. When people say, we built it through our labor at rice and cotton and all of the things that helped really spearhead the Industrial Revolution prior to the Civil War. So we should never take a back seat. And then you couple that with the fact that black folks serve in the military at a higher percentage than the majority population.
Absolutely.
We really do believe in America and in that Constitution. I am the grandson of a World War I veteran who volunteered when he was 17 to get out of Texas, to try to get out of East Texas, even though he ended up coming back. But he volunteered because he was a man, and he wanted these people to know, I'm a man and I fight for my country. He volunteered. My father was a Korean War veteran. He fought for this country, and I served in the Gulf War in the 80s and into the 90s. And so I'm a generation of people that have put our life on the line and went into harm's way for this country. So I take a backseat to nobody in taking my claim to this American dream. And I want to continue to, as Dr. King said, hold them to the promissory note they wrote in the Constitution that all men are created equal, endowed by their Creator with certain inalienable rights, life, liberty, pursuit of happiness. I'm telling everybody, white, black, whoever, you have a right to pursue your happiness and pursue this American dream, taking no backseat to anybody. And that's the way I feel about it.
Nothing but one word to describe that, and that is simply powerful. It's Stay the Water. I'm here with Dr. Eric Claville, and you're joining us for our 2024 special session series, Looking Back, Looking Forward, as we review the General Assembly from the eyes of the Speaker himself, the Honorable Don Scott. Don, I'll go back to when you were sworn in. I had the chance to talk with you right before you went up to the steps to get to the house. And you allowed me to sit in the speaker's office right there to view it. And I'll say this, that was one of the most beautiful moments of my life, just seeing you take that oath and recognize your family. Your mother was in there. It was a beautiful moment. And again, I know that was probably one of the greatest gifts that she could ever had, whether it be on Mother's Day or not. So again, you are one of my favorite people, and of course, a great champion for the people of the Commonwealth as a whole. Don, I want to get into this General Assembly and what we're looking at coming up on tomorrow. You'll be headed up to Richmond, and you'll be there leading the General Assembly into the special session. Well, first of all, the House and the Senate, under your leadership, came to an agreement on so many historic bills, a historic budget. But we find ourselves in a special session because the governor's office sent the governor himself 233 budget amendments. I think he should have vetoed the whole thing, but he said 233 budget amendments. Tell us a little bit about that General Assembly session, what you're so proud of, and how did we get here to a special session?
Well, I think we had some priorities that we wanted to make sure we took care of. I mean, not just in the budget. I mean, we wanted to make sure that we protected women's reproductive health care. We wanted to make sure that we protected our children from the scourge of gun violence and the proliferation of firearms in our communities. We wanted to make sure that we put in dollars to protect those who are most vulnerable, those who are developmental disabled. We wanted to protect them and put legislation, and not only the legislation in place, but the money to back it up. One of the things I always say is, romance without finance is a nuisance. Don't tell me you love me, you're not backing me up with the money. And so I think we tell people we care about education. We tell people we care about teachers. We tell people we care about health care, but we didn't put our money always in the place that we needed to. And so I think now we have put historic amount of money into public education. We've never spent this much money ever per capita in the budget on public education. We've never put this much money in for teacher pay. We've never put this much money in to make sure that we take care of these folks who are doing the back-breaking work of taking care of our elderly. We need to make sure we take care of them and give them the resources that they need. We have made sure that we passed the bill to ban assault weapons. The governor vetoed it, but it's a part of our values. So he'll see that bill again, and we'll keep bringing it until we get a governor that will sign it, because we know that it will save lives. And so we're going to continue to press forward on those things that we care most about. And so we have, what folks don't understand is we have Virginia has a biennium budget, which means we pass the budget for 2-year periods. This budget is $188 billion. It's 400 pages long.
Oh, my gosh.
And so a big part of the budget is based on the formulas that we use to fund education, fund Medicare, Medicaid. We have to make sure that we stay true to that. So once you do all of those things, now we had about $120 billion gone, over 120. So now we got about $68 billion left to play with. And now we have to go through and fund all these other priorities that we have to fund: our farm, our land use, our water, protecting our areas that have flood and mitigate that, building flood walls, doing all the things that we need to do across the Commonwealth. And we've done that. We've funded all of our priorities in the budget. Now, the governor came back with 233 budget amendments, which was essentially a rewrite of the budget.
Right.
And the day before reconvene, that Wednesday, on the Tuesday before the governor, his advisors came back and said, which is his responsibility, it wasn't any joke. They normally do this. They do it every year. Came back and said, we have a revised budget. We found $1 billion. So we think we're going to have $1 billion more in revenue than we thought we did. So we had made some proposals to be able to reach out and touch the new economy, the digital economy, like 20-some other states have, because we're one of the only states that have the loophole where people can download things and not pay anything on it. When you would go to the store and buy the same thing, you have to pay taxes. Mm-hmm. So every state, North Carolina, Maryland, D.C., all of our competitor states, Tennessee, North Carolina, South Carolina, they've all closed these loopholes. We hadn't closed them yet, so we were going to close them, and that would have allowed us to continue to fund all of our priorities. But we made some compromise. We're probably not going to do that this time. And more than likely, because we have the additional $1 billion, we won't need it because that would have raised about $1 billion. And now we don't need it because the governor found $1 billion in revenue for us.
Wait a minute.
And that's kind of what happens.
Is that something how you found it?
Yeah, I mean, what happens is, they have a lot of advisors, and they do revenue projections, and based on the revenue that's coming in, they make some projections, and they update it during the course of the year, because what the initial budget, the governor does a introduced budget in December of 2023. He's required to, and he comes and he tells us what he wants to do, and the governor proposes, but the legislature disposes, and that's the way it works. So he comes in and tells us what he'd like, and then we say, okay, cool, and we do what we want to do. And that's what we did. And then at the end of the day, though, the governor has a lot of power. The governor can make amendments, which we can accept or reject, or he can line item veto items, and there's nothing we can do about that. So at the end of the day, I think we're at a place now where I think, some people think compromise is a dirty word, but when you have divided government like we do, I think we're in the best place possible. And I think that you'll see tomorrow and the rest of this week that you'll see a budget to come out that we probably can all agree to. There'll be a lot of things that everybody loves, and there'll be some things that people hate, which means we'll probably have a lot of agreement to get the budget out. Last time we had a budget that everybody hated, and it passed 140 to nothing. So that's kind of how it works. You got to have something in it that people don't like and something in it that people do like.
Absolutely. Leading up to this special session, the governor went on his tour of a backwards budget, and then, of course, the House and the Democrats went on the tour of Virginia's budget for families. What is it about the budget? What is it about the laws that the General Assembly passed, led by the Democrats, that speaks to the people?
Well, I think one of the things is, we all know that our core value is to make sure that everybody has a fair shot at this American dream.
Amen.
That we take care of families, that we make sure everybody has an opportunity to earn a living with dignity. We introduced a bill to pass the minimum wage, to raise the minimum wage to $15 an hour. That's only $30,000 a year for people working. That's nothing, that's not a big, huge thing for some people who are doing very well. But for those who are at the bottom trying to work their way up, that's huge. And so we passed that bill. The governor vetoed it. He'll say it again. We're going to keep bringing this bill until people get to work with some opportunity to work themselves out up to the top. We can't keep trying to do trickle-down economics. We have to make sure that we build from the middle class up and not from the top down. And I think that's what we're trying to do. And I think we're going to continue to do that. We're going to continue to invest in public education. We're going to continue to make sure that we protect women's reproductive health care. Virginia is the last state in the South that doesn't have a 6-week ban or some crazy ban. And so we're going to continue to do that. And so I think, we have a responsibility to do that. We need to protect our LGBTQ communities. We need to make sure that we don't, prevent them from being bullied. And, in Virginia, we have in our Constitution is marriage is between a man and a woman. That's in our Constitution. And that's in conflict with the United States Supreme Court law that says, we can't restrict marriage. So if the Supreme Court overturns that law, then same-sex marriage is illegal in Virginia. If that happens, so we need to make sure that we understand what's at stake as we continue to reinforce our values that love is love, and we stay out of grown folk business. You know what I mean? Out of grown folks' bedroom. And so at the end of the day, that's between them and their God, and we move on. Also, we have an historic opportunity. We passed an assault weapons ban. The governor vetoed that.
That's right.
Parents shouldn't have to go to school to identify their children by DNA and hair samples. That is what's happening when people come in and shred these poor babies' bodies with these firearms. And we need to understand that's happening every day. And so in our communities it's happening. We need to be stronger in our communities, especially in the black community. We got to start talking to the mindset where these kids want to look at each other and want to kill each other. We got to have these conversations. We need to talk to parents. We talk to teachers. Teachers are having a really, really tough time now. We raised teacher pay. We wanted to raise teacher pay to the national average in Virginia because we need to attract and retain our good teachers because we have great teachers. And so all of those things that we've done, and we didn't just say it, we didn't just write bills, but we put it in the budget. The budget is a very unique document in Virginia politics. And the budget trumps Virginia code.
Wow.
You can have something in the code, and if the budget is contrary to what's in the code, the budget wins. You can put language in the budget to make law. So the budget is so powerful in the Commonwealth of Virginia, which is why it takes so long to get it done, and we fight over it because it's so powerful. Now, I will say to this, I've been in the General Assembly. I was sworn in 2020. We had never finished on time. This is the first time since I've been in General Assembly we finished on time. I was determined to make sure that we finished on time, on schedule, with a budget that had bipartisan support. And that's what we did. Unfortunately, the governor threw a monkey wrench in it, and I think he was on track to veto the budget. And I just think that would have been a bad move. It would have impacted Virginia's AAA bond rating that we've had since the 30s. We're the only state that never lost our AAA bond rating.
That's right.
And had it in peril. And one of the biggest issues with a AAA bond rating is governance. And if you can't get your governance straight, just like a corporation, can't get the governance straight, then you get downgraded or you get put on a watch list, which ends up harming those at the very bottom. It impacts our ability to borrow. It impacts school, building, construction, and all the things that we do in the Commonwealth that we use debt to grow and build our economy. So we couldn't let that happen, and that's why we all came to the table and made a deal along with the governor and his team. And I think we're at a place now where we're going to be able to move forward.
Absolutely. You know, after special session, it doesn't stop. One of the great thing about Virginia, there's an important election every year. In our final moments, I want you to talk to us a little bit about why it's important to continue to be engaged and continue to go to the polls and vote, especially for this upcoming presidential election and what's taking place in 2025.
Thank you. You know, I was born in 1965. 59 years old, and I always think about it. I was born on March 5th, 1965. On March 7th, 1965 was Bloody Sunday. Bloody Sunday was when John Lewis went and marched and others marchers crossed the Edmund Pettus Bridge, and they were attacked by the police and bloody. They called it Bloody Sunday. And they were marching for voting rights. And in August of that year, Lyndon Baines Johnson signed the Voting Rights Act. That's, in my mind, is when America began to become a mature democracy, where we really began to live up to our creed, that we live by this idea around, all men are created equal. Because at that time, only white men, there were whole counties in Mississippi and Alabama, Georgia, Texas, that were majority black, but not one black person was registered to vote.
That's right.
And so we have a responsibility to stay engaged. Our voice, our vote is our voice, and we have to lift our voices up. There are too many folks. It's not just about the past, it's about the future. Do you believe in this future? America is this multi-ethnic, multicultural, and not based on religion, democracy. We're the only democracy in the world that wasn't founded on race or ethnicity or religion. And so we only founded on this idea that all men are created equal, endowed by their creator. I keep saying that. That's the idea. But you can't continue to move that idea forward if you're not participating in the democracy, if you're not letting your voice be heard. Even if it's unpopular, you have to speak up. And the only way you do that as citizens every day, an informed citizen must vote and must be engaged and must be informed. If not, then the tyrants take over, because if you don't speak up and say "ouch," they're gonna think that you're enjoying it. I think Neil Hurston said something similar to that. If you don't cry out in pain when they kill you, they're gonna think you asked for it.
That's right.
You know what I mean? So I'm paraphrasing it, but at the end of the day, you have to speak up and at least say "ouch" while while we're moving forward, because we have some people that don't believe in democracy anymore. We have a guy running for president who says that we can suspend the Constitution. We have a guy running for president say he's immune from the law. The law doesn't apply to him. So we have some days ahead, that we have to really continue to be vigilant. Elsewise, we could go back to some dark days that America's seen. And the only thing that's keeping America moving forward is that those patriots, those real patriots that really believe in democracy, continue to fight for it. I mean, I'm a Navy veteran, and I always think about I have a responsibility. There are 18, 19-year-old kids out there standing watching the middle of the ocean, standing watching in the desert. And she's wondering, will I have a democracy to come home to? We have a responsibility to make sure that what they're fighting for, putting their life on the line, going in harm's way, that they come back to a democracy. And that's our obligation, and that's why we must vote. That's why we must stay engaged, and we must continue to push forward those principles that our ancestors espoused.
Absolutely. And voting matters. That's why we have you as a historic first. And I like what you told our students. You're the first but not the last speaker of the General Assembly here, the House of Delegates in the Commonwealth of Virginia, the oldest state in the Union. Speaker, thank you so much for joining us. Like I said, you are truly inspiration. Not only that, but you're also doing a phenomenal job leading the Commonwealth and the people into higher heights and greater depths and great things here in our country. Thank you again for joining us here on Stay in the Water. And as always, make sure you tune in every Sunday as we bring movers, shakers, and policymakers to you to discuss issues important to the community. Once again, happy Mother's Day to all the mothers out there. Until next time, be good, be great, God bless, and we'll see you next week.
Hi, I'm Carrie Washington, and you're listening to State of the Water with award-winning host Dr. Eric Claville.